Hi foster friends, this is Jill with the Foster Life. I am sitting out behind the Aldi here in Indiana in my little area, and I just had a little encounter that I wanted to just share. I was on my way to the office. I'm training some foster parents today, and I thought, I'll stop in Aldi and I'll pick up a few things that I need because I had a few minutes. And so I'm walking into the Aldi, and there is a mother with 4 children, and she is kind of chewing her kids up one and down the other. And I'm thinking, but it was good stuff. She was saying good things to her kids about, hygiene and all that. And as I passed by, I heard some expletives drop toward these children. Well, that's always kind of something that gets under my skin. I just don't think we should be cussing at our kids. And I think that if we don't want kids to behave that way, then we shouldn't do it. Okay? That's just how I feel. You can feel different. That's fine. This mama wasn't extremely loud, but these kids that she had that were probably, the oldest was probably 8, another little boy that was probably 5, another little boy maybe, 6, and then a little girl in her cart. Her rant kind of went on through a few aisles, and I just happened to be on the exact same path as her, and so I heard the majority of it, and my red flags were raised, because when I hear kids who are being spoken to the way she was dropping, not necessarily inappropriate things, she was saying truth, I get that, but just the way she was going about it was just, it rubbed me. And then I hear her get to the root of it, and it came down to, I gotta move out of the way because there's a car coming. Oh, thanks, buddy. It's going around me. It came down to her being very frustrated, and I wasn't trying to necessarily listen, but I couldn't really help it because it was a little bit loud. It wasn't like crazy loud, but it was loud enough. And she was frustrated with her dad. They had been with their dad, and their dad had not fed them today, and it's noon. And she was coming to pick up some food and was feeding them. And she went on her whole thing about their dad and how your dad's making bad life choices, and but expletives and F-bombs thrown in there, and you should be doing this and you should be doing that, and blah 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 blah. And she was really laying into these kids, and I was mad. I'm not gonna lie. At first I was really mad, and I'm like, I want to get my groceries, but I felt bad. I look at these little boys and their little faces, and they're just down. And then we hit the ice cream aisle, and I hear her saying, I'm sorry, I'm mad. She's talking to her kids. I'm sorry that I'm mad. I'm just frustrated, and I'm pissed off, and it's not your fault. I'm having a hard time. And I get that. I have been that mother that is extremely frustrated for whatever reasons. Also, being a foster mother, that comes with a whole new territory. That's a whole nother area of frustration that you deal with. But it's taken me a long time to learn to just be quiet, and even when it comes down to biological families of the kids I serve, be quiet. Don't say anything negative. You can be so frustrated, and you will be frustrated. Just don't say anything. Well, I'm not gonna lie, or I'm not even gonna hide it, and I think this is pretty well known that I am a believer, and I really felt very strongly that I was supposed to say something to her, but not out of anger, that I knew that she needed a hug. And I just sat this morning through a service and heard my very good friend, Marla Gadet, who is also, we work together, she's a therapist with the organization that I work with, and she spoke about rescue, and she spoke about reaching out for help when you need it and helping people, and it was a very powerful message, and that was playing in my head and playing in my head and playing in my head, and I thought, I've got to say something, I've got to do something. We checked out literally right behind each other. I was in another lane, and I thought to myself, I really feel like I should say something to her, but I was kind of fighting it, like, I don't want to say it, but I need to say it, but I don't want to say it, but I feel like this woman needs to hear from somebody. And so she happened to be unloading her groceries 2 cars over from mine. And I'm like, oh Lord, what are you doing here? So I rolled up, and she made eye contact with me. And she looked so sad. And I said, listen, I don't know you. And I just stopped and talked to her. I don't know you, but can I give you a hug? And she started crying, and she hugged me, and she said that I sound horrible. And I said, listen, you sounded pretty bad, but I've been your kids. I've been where your kids are. and I did hear your conversation because I was right by you most of the time, and I said, I am that kid that comes from a divorced home, and I understand your frustrations. My mom had some of these frustrations of my dad feeding me junk food, and sorry dad, I'm just keeping it real. You know, coming home on a Sunday and we hadn't had dinner yet and it's 8 or 9 o'clock at night. My dad's a good dad. He's definitely a good dad, you know, and we partied down when we were at dad's house. But, you know, mom had frustrations with dad and dad had frustrations with mom. And sometimes we heard about it. Sorry, I'm calling y'all out. Sometimes we heard about it as kids. And it wasn't always very sweet. And I told this woman that, and I said, this is what I wish my parents would have done. I said, you know what my mom did? It was 9 o'clock on a Sunday. We partied all day with dad. We had a great time. We had a really great time. But when we got home and I said, Mommy, I'm hungry, and she was all ticked off because dad didn't feed us, Mom made us dinner. She fed her babies and she took care of us. And I told this mother, I said, what I wish my parents would have done in those moments when they were really frustrated with each other, being a divorced family, is I wish they just would have been quiet. Just don't say anything. Deal with that behind the scenes. Now, I love my parents. They're great. I love you. Don't get offended because I'm making this post. I'm simply sharing with you a couple of things. When you notice that people need something, do something about it. It's taken me a long time. I'm 40 years old. 10 years ago, I probably would never have walked up to that woman to hug her, but I feel her frustration. I sense it. I've experienced, you know, levels of her frustration. And I just hugged her, and she expressed to me that her man left her a month ago for another woman, and how hurt she is and how frustrated she is, and she's trying to find her way. And I just hugged her, and she's crying, and she said, I have not had a hug in quite a while. And I just squeezed her a little tighter and I held her a little longer. And women, we need to take care of each other. You know, I am nobody special. I'm just at a point in my life when I feel the tug of the Holy Spirit, I follow it. And we need that. And there have been times in my life when I needed someone to reach out to me, and they did it. Let's just be quiet. If we have nothing better to say, nothing good to say, be quiet. We need to look out for each other. We need to recognize each other as humans when we're struggling. And just a hug, an acknowledgement of frustration. And I told her, I said, take your babies to church. Keep taking good care of them. They're going to be good kids. You're going to be okay. When times get hard and it gets too hard, if nothing else, we just have to be quiet. Don't say anything in front of our kids. And then we need to talk to each other. We need to reach out. You know, that sermon this morning really spoke to me about people needing a rescue. This was at Granger Community Church in Granger, Indiana. And we need to start paying attention to each other. So I want to leave you with that. If you're going through a really hard time, just be quiet. Just be quiet and don't say anything if this has to do with the foster children or your biological children. Just be quiet. Don't say anything negative to them. They don't need that. They're stressed. Those little boys are going through their own trauma right now with their daddy leaving their mommy. And then, you know, to have to deal with that, their mommy being angry. And even though she wasn't angry at them, it felt like it to them. I could tell that by the looks on their face. So if you need help, reach out for help. Reach out to your support systems. Reach out to your church. Reach out here. I'll help give you direction if you need it, if you need some help. My friends, when you feel that tug of the Holy Spirit, please follow it. I'm at the point in my life where I'm just not ashamed anymore, and I'm going to just step out, because when I feel that a fellow human needs it, I'm going to step out. I'm going to say something. Have a good day. Carry on, my friends.